Hey everybody, this is me, the Undead Viking, and this giant box has Forestation in it. Forestation is a worker placement game in which each person is going to take on the role of maybe an ecology enthusiast will be the name that I'm going to use. Each person is going to have their own forest, basically, that they're going to be taking care of. And as the game progresses, they're going to expand that forest, they're going to plant trees, they're going to, convince different animals to come to that forest, but they're going to have to maintain the ecology of the forest to make sure that everything is working in sync and working well. Along the way, they're going to have to fight against different events that are going to be both positive and negative, and they're going to have to try and basically just do the best job possible in comparison to the other people that are playing the game. I had a lot of fun with this one, even though I was a little worried at first, but I did have a lot of fun with it playing with my daughter. She is a big fan of worker placement games, and she likes building things. She likes creating things, and she likes watching the ecology of everything kind of evolve. And that's not just this game, other games as well. She likes when she puts stuff together, and then you kind of push a button and you see what happens. And that kind of happens with this game as far as your different animals having other baby animals, and then the predators feeding on those animals, and just seeing what happens when that occurs. And so I did enjoy the narrative of this game, which is weird because usually with games of this genre, you don't really get a story so much because the theme feels a little just added on at the very end. So let me show you how the game is played. If you're familiar with worker placement games, you should be pretty acclimated to how this one's going to run. But then we'll come back here and we'll tell you exactly what I think of it. Alright, so this is Forestation, and as I said, this is a worker placement game. I'm going to guess that most of you are probably going to be familiar with the idea of worker placement, but in case you are not, it is just that. You are going to have workers, these little meeples here, and you start with 2, you can get more as the game progresses, and you're going to be placing them in placement, if you will, to take that action. Once you take that, as soon as you put your worker down, you will take that action. And then it blocks other people. If somebody really wanted to use that spot as well, unfortunately they can't because you've used that spot. Now some of these locations have these little infinity symbols on them. That means that those can be used by any number of people, any number of workers. It doesn't matter who is, everybody can use that spot. You can everybody could fill that entire spot up with all of their workers if they wanted to. It doesn't matter. You're going to have 4 years, basically 4 turns of this game, and there are going to be 4 seasons per each year, as you probably well know. And they're represented by these cards here. Each one of these cards is going to be an event that is going to take effect for that particular season that's going to affect what you and the other players are going to be doing for that particular turn. Now some other things that you might see, you might have questions about, is that this little card down here, everybody's going to start with their a forest card, and they can use either side when they have it. The forest card, and you can get more, so you can expand your forest later. The forest card is where you're going to be placing your park rangers and your wardens and your animals and your trees and your fish and everything. And basically those things are going to help you get more and different varied animals and trees and what have you to make your forest as awesome as possible so you can score lots of points. Now, also on the board, you might see some decks of cards here. There's the Prey Migration card, a Predator Migration card, and these Forest cards. The Prey and Predator Migration cards, each person starts with one of them. They are ways that you can use if you satisfy certain requirements. You're going to be able to allow, basically coax certain animals to show up to your particular forest. So, for example, a bear enters your forest provided you have an empty Predator box and more moose than bear. And so they have a little flavor text there. If you encounter a black bear and it stands up on its hind legs, it means it is curious, or maybe it wants to eat your face. I don't know, but I'm gonna guess that the card might be telling the truth. I still probably wouldn't talk to the bear and see if he's curious or whatever. But anyway, so and then a beaver arrives in your forest when it can be with an arbutus tree, and so beavers mainly eat the bark of trees and then the soft tissue that grows under the bark. And so it is cool that they add some information on there that people can know. Alright, and so obviously if you can satisfy those particular requirements, you can get those animals into your forest. Now, the forest cards, actually are ways that you can kind of break the rules in some way, as long as you satisfy the requirements that the card is asking you for. So here's one. That says you have a warden academy. You may hire a park warden by placing a worker on the space below. You need not to play. Well, the whole thing is that basically you have to have a warden. That's what that little token says down there. And then you basically get to keep this and put it in front of you, and you'd have it for the rest of the game. When these are taken, you can notice there's these little spots up here. When they're taken, you immediately replace them with the cards that are on here. So some of them, like here's a requirement, like you have to have your nature house, which is what that little green house is there, and then you have to have the first player marker. Now you don't lose this if you lose the first player marker, but that's what you have to qualify to take this. And then a river speculator, river tiles cost only $2 for you, and land tiles still cost you $4. And so those would be the tiles that you'd use to expand. And these are very powerful if you can get them, obviously early in the game. They're really helpful as far as being able to expand. Later in the game, maybe not as useful, but like it's one of those things where you can kind of cash in to begin with. So the big thing about this game is you have to remember in each turn what's going to happen is that you're just going to turn over, like for season 1 of year 1, and you can see this is like cooperative beasts, and it says capture and release costs only $1 this season. Now the reason that it says $1 and that remember those costs are, you start with $2, and you can do other actions, and you are going to have income as well depending upon your forest. But you'll notice that a lot of these things have like these little red money tokens. This one has green. That actually gives you money. Anything with a green means that you get money for doing it. But so you have these little red marks, and that's what it costs to be able to take that action. Now some of them, like here, like the Prairie Migration, this version of it doesn't cost you anything, but this one would, and so forth. So the catch and release, as they say, the catch and release is your ability and that's up here, the capture and release spot right here. And this is why having being the first player is really helpful, because lo and behold, there's only one spot there. So if you're the first player, you turn that over. The catch and release allows you to take any animal and take it and put it into your forest, and that's all obviously very, very important and very, very powerful. Now a lot of things that are going to happen is like all these. I mean, I'm going to kind of just go through each action here in just a little bit, but it's the one thing I really like about this game is how your forest will evolve over time. You will slowly but surely like build things up. Like you will get fish into your you'll stock fish in your river, and those fish themselves will feed will feed your predators. They'll feed your eagles. They'll feed your wolves, and you'll get bigger and better prey. Like such as like an elk, like a giant elk. But the elk need they need a certain type of tree, or else they won't be happy, and they have to be associated with that tree. And so there's like this kind of this delicate balance you have to have. And also an elk has a ton of food, right? And so like if you want an elk, then it's really good, like you can have a bear in your forest. Now as your forest expands and like you buy more tiles, and you don't have to have your rivers meet up or anything like that. I mean, don't worry about it. But as your forest expands and you do more with it, you're going to have you can have this bear over here could use this elk for food, because you have a giant forest. However, it should be noted that the park wardens and the park and the wildlife officers that you gather, which would be these people, can only patrol the tile. They can't patrol the whole thing. Just keep that in mind. All right, so I've kind of stepped ahead of myself a little bit here, but just keep in mind that everybody's going to place their workers, and then when you're done, then you collect your workers, and then you do it over, and you're going to go through the entire season. So as you can see, a lot of things are here's a tree. So here's a fir tree seed. And so there are one of the actions that you have available to you is you can buy seeds. And so then you get to buy seeds by paying money to buy seeds. And when you buy a seed, you put it down in the tree location, and then later you can go to water the seeds to actually grow that into a full-size tree. You can wait for the end of the year and you can have the tree grow naturally, but a lot of times you're going to need those trees to be fully grown so your prey don't leave your forest going and looking for other habitats that they possibly want. Now, they won't leave and go to somebody else's habitat. They're just going to leave your particular area. And you need the prey to be there to be fed on by the predators, or else the predators are going to leave. That's that whole delicate balance thing that I was talking about. All right, so other actions like this takes the first player marker if you want that. Here you can go ahead and put fish in stream restoration. You put the fish into your your river tiles if you have them. Obviously, if you don't have your water, you can't put any fish away. Over here, you get an awareness token. Like for $1, you get an awareness token, and you're like, well, why would I pay $1 to do an awareness token? So for every one of these that you have, you can go, when you go here to collect donations, you will make money by collecting awareness. Basically, you're going out talking about, preservation, ecology, and things like that, and you're getting donations to do that. You can go here at the Four Seasons Fair just to get money. For every worker you put there, you get $1. It's kind of like that one of those catch-all spots where there really isn't anything left for you to do, so you might as well just put your worker there. Over here, there's 2 spots available for a community grant that will get you $2. And then this buying real estate basically allows you to buy those tiles. And here allows you to recruit workers, and here lets you buy park wardens and wildlife officers. Park wardens and wildlife officers will protect your animals in case poachers come up. Poachers will appear during the season as events, so they will protect your animals on those tiles, so they won't be killed by the poachers. And the wildlife officers will protect your trees and your forests as well from like natural disasters, like fires and things like that. And having those on each one of those spots is very, very important because it will protect your forest and protect your hard work. All right, so the only other thing I mentioned is that both this prey migration and predator migration, they have a free spot, and this is that doesn't cost you anything here and here, and they have a spot that costs you money. So if you decide to take the free one, you have to discard, and you can only ever have one prey migration card or one predator migration card at any one time. You have to discard the one you have, and then you just draw one. If you pay a coin, you discard the one that you have still, but you get to draw 2 of those cards and pick the one that you want. So it's giving you some variability and some versatility when you're allowed to do that. All right, so at the end of each year, you're going to go through basically the whole process of like how well your forest did, and maybe score little points, but then get ready for the next year. So at the end of the year, if you have built a nature house on your tiles, these little nature houses here, if you built those, they're going to earn you $1 a piece. Then you have to pay. You're going to have to pay your workers. You have to pay each one of your workers $1, and not these guys, like your workers, the workers that you're placing. You have to pay each worker $1 or lose a point on the scoring track for every unpaid worker. They don't quit, but you just lose a point for not paying them. Now, animals breed. If you have 2 like animals, they will breed. So like these 2 would breed like a fish. If I had another elk over, if I had another elk here, that would breed another elk for me. Of course, I can't find another elk tile here. There we go. So I could breed another elk. Now, you have, obviously, you just place those like so. And then predators will then feed, or they will leave. So you have to actually work out how much food each animal needs and what they will eat. So bears will eat everything. They'll eat fish, they'll eat squirrels, they'll eat beavers, they'll eat elk, they'll eat moose. If you have cougars, they will eat everything but moose. Wolves will eat everything but elk and moose, and eagles will only eat fish or squirrels. And so in this case, each elk is worth 7 food, and each fish is worth 1 food. And I only have the 1 bear. And the bear needs 8. So what I could do is I could feed him 1 elk that I just got and 1 fish that I just got, and that would feed my bear. And my bear would be happy, and he would have, his tummy would be full, and he wouldn't need any more food. It would be kind of a self-sustaining. And this is one of those things where, as you're playing, you're kind of trying to have a self-sustaining situation where you're keeping all of your animals happy and healthy, and you can then obviously, like, if they're producing enough offspring, the prey are eating those, and but they're staying in your forest. They're not wandering off. Now, sometimes, like, the interesting thing is that I'm gonna have to try to find something. So let's say we have a wolf. Okay, let's say we had this wolf in here, like there is a predator, and the wolves can't normally kill an elk, but let's say we decided instead, like, we had that elk back. Let me get that elk back here, like so, and we decided to kill one for 7 food, but that wouldn't be enough to feed him. So we kill one elk. We could kill another elk, right, for another 7 food, meaning we killed 14 food worth. The wolf requires 5 food himself, and so with 14 food, the bear and the wolf would need a total of 13. The bear kills one elk, gets 7 of his 8 food that he needs. He kills another elk. He gets his 1 food that he needs left, but there's enough carcass left over for the wolf to eat. It's actually, like, that's one of the things I thought was really cool. It was like, oh wow, that actually, like, makes sense. Like, and the fact that, like, the theme is actually feeding into the mechanisms here, I like that when games do that sort of thing. So a predator will leave the forest rather than feed. Sometimes, if the like, they will sometimes wander off, and you, as the person controlling the forest, can decide that they do so if it is in your best interests. So they do not feed on the animals that you have. But for the most part, you want to keep your predators because they are worth points each year. Predators are going to be worth points at the end. Now, at this point, if you have any prey that did not have a tree, let's move that there. Let's pretend. If you had any prey that didn't have a tree, they would leave. Now, the problem here is it's quite possible maybe that you had a seed waiting to grow, but you didn't get over to the watering seeds. Well, unfortunately, even though that tree is going to be grown soon, this beaver is going to leave anyway because of the fact that tree isn't grown. Because of the fact that there was no habitat for them. Timing is very, very important. And if you had extra predators, if you had, like, predators that, like, and you don't have to, when those things are grown, like your animals have babies, you can keep them off to the side at first. You don't have to find a place for them. But after all is said and done, at this point, you need to find a place for them. And if you had more prey than you had spots for, if you had more predators than you had more spots for, they would leave as well, because they aren't just going to hang out without a place to live. Now, after all that's done, you flip over. Unfortunately, the beaver left before the tree grew, but yeah, well, that's what happens. And then, for every predator you have in your forest, you're going to get 2 points. Now, the only difference between this and the end of the year, and I should mention that then you basically pick up all your workers, you're going to go ahead and restart. You flip over the next season, which, let's see what this one is. Nature houses are free this year, so if you're the first player and you want a nature house, you can take that spot and get a nature house for free, which is a pretty good deal. So now the only difference between this and the end of the game is that at the end of the year, you're going to basically see who has the best forest. You're going to get a 5 points bonus for having all 4 species of predators. You're going to get a 5-point bonus for having all 5 species of tree. And you're going to get a 5-point bonus for having all 5 species of prey. And if you have a full river, it's going to be worth 2 points. And then you get 1 point for every tree, 1 point for every prey, 1 point for every forest style, 1 point for every park warden, 1 point for every wildlife officer, and 1 point for every nature house. As you can expect, basically everything that you've basically worked on and created is going to be worth points at the end of the game. So there it is. Whoever has the best forest, i.e. has the most points, will be the winner at that point, and then will have done the best job of creating a forest. I love worker placement games. This is no different from any other game as far as that genre. It has all the different things that I really like, plus it integrates the theme very, very well. But let me talk about that and more in my final thoughts. Alright, thanks for taking the time to learn how to play Forestation. I hope you got a good glimpse or a good idea of how that game is played. Now, I've definitely played games like this before. I've definitely played games where, and I know there's a few of you maybe out there that are going to say, wait a minute, hey buddy, this is a garden game, if you will. And I'll fully admit, yes, this is a garden game. And even more so, it kind of fits the whole garden genre that I give it. Each person's garden, their forest, is theirs to maintain and control. There really isn't a lot of ways other people can come in and mess up your forest. The only way they can really mess up the forest is if they take certain locations that are, that they need, right? You know, if they really needs, a warden, and you take that spot before them, that's messing with them a little bit. However, the game does provide for a lot of different ways for that to like different ways for people to meet that requirement without it. Namely, the forest cards and some of the event cards are going to mix things up a little bit. And even though you might feel like, oh, this turn I didn't get to take, I didn't get a fish when I really wanted one, or what have you. There are going to be other ways that you're going to do that. I think this game for me shines a lot, as I said in both the beginning and the rules explanation, is in the narrative, is in like the telling me the story of the game and how I've created my own forest and how it has progressed. I really like trying to think ahead and trying to remember, like, okay, I need these types of animals here in my forest. I need them to be, creating more offspring so I can feed those predators that are showing up. And it's interesting because of the fact that you have like that weird delicate balance that you have to maintain. You have to kind of, and it does kind of take on a kind of standard refrain where, okay, get those forests built, make sure you water them, now let's get some animals showing up. Using those prey migration cards is very, very important. Like if the beaver needs that particular type of tree, get that seed, plant it, water it, get that free beaver, if you will, out there, and so now that you've got something out there, now you can like work on the possibility of bringing in another. You can maybe fork over like the $3 to like just catch and release another beaver within your park. So now that's should have picked a different animal. But anyway, those two beavers are going to have a baby beaver, right? And so now, and that's considered to be a full-grown animal. So you can then figure out what can that feed, and that's when you get that prey. And then, so now you've got a stable ecology with those three things, and now you can start building on top of that. And it's fun to watch that progress over the different seasons. Now, obviously, I think this game was meant to kind of tell a story and kind of teach as well. I know that the designer is heavily into ecology and into wilderness preservation and things like that, and I believe in that as well. I am a big-time fisherman, and I have a lake cabin. I'm a big-time outdoorsman. During the summer, I like being in the outdoors, and I do know that like the wetlands in the upper Midwest where I come from are vanishing a great deal, and so that is something that I want to preserve, and I want my grandchildren to be able to experience the same type of thing that I do now, as far as like the very, very nice nature walks I go on with my family, the fishing expeditions that I go on, things like that. I don't want that to be spoiled, and so I salute the idea behind this, is then trying to teach people as they play the game a very valuable lesson about it's our job to take care of nature and help it, and do our best to like leave like these places as untouched as possible, and allow that wild scenario not to be overtaken by the advance of industry and technology. So for all of those reasons, it's just a fun game. I had a lot of fun just kind of playing it and putting the different animals and making my little forest, and I really, really just enjoy games that I get to build something. And winning or losing the game after that is kind of just an attack on for me. So there you go. If you have any questions about Forestation, please ask away. I'll be happy to answer those as best as I can. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video, and until next time, I'm the Undead Viking, and I'm telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day. Alright, bye-bye.